ever felt like you've had a case of deja vu? Have you ever felt like you've had a case of deja vu? Have you ever felt like you've had a case of deja vu? Have you ever... Okay, I'll stop. I'm so sorry, but I will stop. But the Chinese Grand Prix did feel like a case of deja vu for the majority of Formula 1 fans, and especially Ferrari fans as well. So obviously, as you can see by the title of this video, we'll be talking about Sebastian Vettel and his future in Formula 1, judged by the circumstances that occurred at the Chinese Grand Prix, which happened about a week ago. Now, this is probably a big... a massive topic that's been on everyone's lips for the past week or so, and I do want to know your opinions and leave them in the comment section below. And I'm saying this now because I believe a lot of people do have a big say on their opinions of Sebastian Vettel, about his driving ability, about his future, where's he going to go, is he going to stay in Formula 1. So obviously let us know in the comment section below, and I believe that this is going to be a very opinionated, divided debate video, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be a big one, guys, so strap in and let's get on with it. So as we've seen what happened at the Chinese Grand Prix, Sebastian Vettel took third place at the Chinese Grand Prix, and it comes at no really surprise that Ferrari were leaving the Grand Prix with sad faces, and pretty much all of Maranello was crying. And yes, and obviously, and yet again, the team orders debate comes into it once again. So just a brief rundown as to what happened. Obviously, Charles Leclerc was ahead of Sebastian Vettel. Vettel was closing in on his teammate, and Charles Leclerc was ordered to leave space and allow Sebastian Vettel to move alongside him, obviously to allow the Ferraris to catch up to the Mercedes, because they were pulling ahead. And as you've seen, well, unless you didn't watch the race, and in this case you were living under a rock, and obviously as like I said, as you did see, the Ferraris didn't catch up to the Mercedes, and Sebastian Vettel just completely I would say ruined his race and the strategy for the team. But was it Vettel's fault or was it Ferrari's fault? Well, I'm putting it down to more so Ferrari, because personally I thought, at the time I thought, right, okay, Ferrari's decision to allow Vettel through past Leclerc was the correct choice. At the time, Vettel was faster, and the Mercedes was you know, by a tenth of that was pulling away from the Ferrari boys. So Ferrari had to do something. They had to think of something to try and salvage the race. And then Vettel obviously got through. His strategy didn't work out at all. His tyres were shot. They were gone. And to be fair, I thought at that time, well, thinking about it now, it was probably the wrong time to do it. They should have done it probably about 2 or 3 laps earlier, because you could see from early on that Vettel was faster than Leclerc, and that was, you know, as I said, they should have done it earlier than that. Vettel was in the dirty air of Charles Leclerc, and that's pretty much what damaged his tyres. I feel like there was less downforce, no grip on the car at all, and obviously Vettel's tyres were shot, and that's why he couldn't really pull any gap towards the Mercedes, and they had pretty much a race of their own. They took another 1-2 finish, and Ferrari took obviously a 3rd place finish, Vettel's first time on the podium this season, and as like I said, sad faces were left coming into Maranello. So once again, that the future of Sebastian Vettel is up for question. What is going to happen now? Because he is now a massive 31 points behind championship leader Lewis Hamilton. Now this is the biggest advantage that he has had. Well, I would say, behind a current leading championship driver since 2017, when Ferrari had a really good pace car. I think he was 7 points at this stage in 2017, 9 points in 2018, 31 points, like I said, this time right now. And to be fair, that is all down to the mess that Ferrari is in right now, because the car is nowhere near as quick as what it was, as what we thought it was going to be in pre-season testing. They've lost a lot of time, a lot of power, if you like. I don't know what is going on behind the scenes, because like I said, there was all sorts of decisions being made as well. For example, why didn't they pull Sebastian Vettel along, or allow him through a lot earlier than they did? And then obviously this whole debate about who's the #1 driver. Sebastian Vettel, is he just doing well, or doing, is he there because Ferrari are telling him to do that? Is he the golden boy? And Ferrari are just let, what I will say is that will Sebastian Vettel actually win the championship with Ferrari? And if he does so, will Ferrari or the mechanic would have helped him to do so, and Vettel hasn't done it on his own accord. To be fair, I know it seems like it does seem like we are regurgitating ourselves when it comes to this kind of topic, but it's just there's just so much to discuss after more so after the occurrence of what happened at the Chinese Grand Prix. So if you rewind back to about Australia time, well, I would say before Australia rather, about pre-season, when Ferrari were saying that they will give Sebastian Vettel priority over his new teammate Charles Leclerc up until the point roughly when he gets up to speed. 3 races in, there's been 3 cases of team radio, and Ferrari are still not always satisfied. I think some of them have been the right call, the wrong call, but the car hasn't been anywhere near to what it has been. Realistically, you could say now Ferrari will not win the Constructors' Championship without a shadow of a doubt, and I'll probably rule out Sebastian Vettel winning the World Championship. I know it is only round 3, but as like I said, the strategy isn't good, the car isn't good, and and they're going to another power-hungry circuit, which, to be fair, Ferrari excelled in Bahrain. All right, an engine problem cost Leclerc, and Vettel cost Vettel, if you like, in Bahrain. But then obviously China, I was expecting a similar sort of pace, and that was nowhere near the case. Which obviously was a bit of a downer. So going into Azerbaijan, are we going to see the same Ferrari as we did in China, or are we going to see the same Ferrari in Bahrain? A bit of inconsistency from the Maranello team, and this isn't the World Championship we were hoping for. This isn't the World Championship that we wanted. We wanted Ferrari to be able, to be on par with Mercedes, like they have been. I would probably say last year, apart from when Vettel threw it away, if you like. And that's what we were expecting. And by the looks of it in pre-season testing, Ferrari were miles ahead of everybody else, and that's not the case anymore. And it has left a lot of people frustrated. It has left us frustrated that we're not going to get a proper championship fight unless Ferrari, pull their fingers out the bums and actually get something done with it. Find some power or some sort. Just try something. But one person that probably isn't going to be satisfied is Sebastian Vettel. Now, as I said, last season he could have won the World Championship. He could have went all the way to the wire, and it could have went down to right, okay, best driver wins, if you like. Whoever loses, all right, I did brilliant, but not as good as you, because obviously you did one race better than what I did. And as I said, he could have been there. He could have put his foot in the door for a 4th World Championship, for a 5th World Championship, and he didn't, because he blew it away. Now this has led to a lot of people debating about Sebastian Vettel's driving ability. Is he actually good enough under pressure? Or is he just just a quick okay, his glory days now over, that his Ferrari days are going to be an absolute disaster, like what I would probably say Alonso's was, if you like, because Alonso had his good moments. He never won the World Championship like what he set out to do, and that was Vettel's aim, to go off to Ferrari and win the World Championship to do so, and he hasn't really. Well, I say that. Well, he has been with the champ 2 years ago, and last season, but obviously Ferrari let him down 1 year, Vettel let him down the next. So it's led to a question of, will Sebastian Vettel retire at the end of 2019? Now, one reason could be is that yes, he could, so because Ferrari are, as I said, he's just nowhere near the pace of the Mercedes. He's his future's going to be speculated as well, and he isn't going to go for that luxurious 5th World Championship like he has set out to do. And it's just absolute mess at Ferrari at the moment as well, especially for Sebastian Vettel. As I said, he does want to win that World Championship. He does want to do well at Ferrari. This isn't going well for him, but will he actually consider his options for 2020? Because his contract runs out at the end of 2020, so he obviously has got another season left at Ferrari. But obviously, as Vettel quoted, it's only a piece of paper. So that tells me that he's is he thinking about next year? Is he thinking about his future beyond Formula 1 next season, or will he see the contract out? So Lyle, bring you into this one for the first time. What's your opinions about Sebastian Vettel this season? And do you think, I'm asking the question now, do you think he will retire at the end of this season? What's your thoughts?
Yes, I do think he'll retire at the end of the season. Now, obviously, with Sebastian Vettel, he's been fighting for the World Championship for absolutely ages, since he came into Ferrari. And it was looking promising. Obviously 2015, good season with them. Obviously he won Malaysia, which I believe was the second race.
Yeah.
Obviously that was like a Ferrari's back kind of thing. 2016, obviously we know how bad that Ferrari car was, and that definitely was Ferrari. But then since then it's kind of been like he's a good driver, Sebastian Vettel. Obviously he's kind of he can be as fast as Lewis Hamilton. Obviously, he can challenge Lewis Hamilton. He's won races, obviously, which Lewis Hamilton hasn't. Yeah. But it just feels like Sebastian is always just a little bit behind Lewis. Whether that be like just actual out and out skill, how fast he is, how fearless he is, something. But there's always just something, one little thing which he's always behind Lewis Hamilton in. And obviously, we're not comparing Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton together. But in this instance, you kind of can't look at that, obviously, because they're the World Championship guys. They're obviously the ones that are always at the top. the two main people you have in Formula One in terms of fans, obviously, are Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel. The two richest people in Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel. These are the people that are going for the World Championship. Now, in the olden days, probably about a few years ago, we would say that those two were really on par with each other. But I think since probably about mid-2017, me and Jordan, we've both kind of seen that, Lewis Hamilton is a better driver than Sebastian Vettel. He's got more skill, he's got more precision. Obviously with Seb, especially in 2018, obviously he made so many mistakes in that car. Obviously the French Grand Prix in Nice, obviously he collided and had a few problems there. Obviously he has had a few collisions with drivers, obviously Suzuka 2018, obviously with Max Verstappen going around the Dunlop curb. But the main one, and I said this in the Bahrain Grand Prix review, I think it was, which was the big race for me, which kind of just showed Sebastian Vettel just kind of really, lacking that kind of how good he is anymore, was the US Grand Prix in 2018, obviously in Austin. If you remember lap one, if he went around the curbs and he spanned the car. Now, I mean, I know it was said after the race that obviously they had a bit of a dodgy front wing, along with the high curbs at Austin, obviously, which made the car spin. But then you think about it, you're like, how many more cars span in that race? Probably none. Or if there were probably at the backfield. I don't even think anyone else did. But Sebastian Vettel was the only guy to spin that car. Kimi Räikkönen, I think he got close with the curve, but Sebastian Vettel was the only one to spin in that race, while his teammate was obviously winning the race. I think that race really, kind of showed to me that Seb is really not at the level that he used to be. And again, obviously comparing that, a few races ago in Singapore, we saw Lewis Hamilton obviously absolutely smash that record. We saw him do absolutely amazing race. Obviously Singapore was one of the best. And basically Lewis Hamilton, he's never really been in kind of a collision-worthy situation. Okay, Italy 2018 he might have been, but that was just a little bit unlucky. Obviously he won the race, he went on to win. Obviously Mercedes won too, but apart from Italy 2018, Lewis has never really been in one of those kind of situations. I think the last time he ever retired was Malaysia 2016. Obviously that was with his engine problems. Sebastian Vettel, he's retired quite a few times. The last time I think was the German Grand Prix, and obviously since then he's had he's had quite a few almost retiring situations, where he's made the car collide with someone else. He's done problems. Obviously, with like Germany, he took himself out. Obviously, he crashed when really no pressure, no one was behind him, no one was in front of him. He was leading the race. So in that instance, Sebastian Vettel, can make some mistakes. He can be. I think he's just kind of lost his experience. Obviously, he was always a great driver. He'll always be remembered as a legend. Obviously, youngest pole sitter of all. He will always be remembered, obviously, as one of the best drivers. Obviously, 4 World Championships. They're never ever going to go away. But he definitely peaked in his Red Bull days. He's now on the down. He's now going down. Obviously, compared to Lewis Hamilton, which is I'd say he's on the rise. He's not as fast. He doesn't get as much out of the car as other people like Lewis Hamilton. And the thing is with Seb, it's quite worrying, to think that Valtteri Bottas, who is a great driver, he's a good driver. Sorry, not great. He's a good driver. Obviously, he's good. He's won race obviously before. He won in Australia, which was pretty amazing. And now he's ahead of him in the World Championship. He's had. He's with Lewis Hamilton. He's catching up, and he's either overtaken Seb, and kind of in that that seat at the table where Sebastian was, fighting for the World Championship, he's not there anymore. And if anything, he's getting overtaken by Verstappen, which he is in the World Championship. Obviously, Verstappen is 3rd place. And he's almost getting overtaken by Leclerc. Obviously, he's in front of Charles Leclerc again in the World Championship. But he is almost in that position wherever he is, because if you remember, obviously, Bahrain, Charles Leclerc got pole position. He almost had the race win. He lost it, but he still finished higher than Sebastian Vettel. So in that instance, Sebastian is, in terms of raw out-and-out pace, he is losing it a little bit, in different factors. And obviously, the big thing was in Bahrain, he spanned the car, obviously battling with Lewis Hamilton, which, even though, again, he said that the tyres were going, you just think to yourself, like, Lewis Hamilton wouldn't do that. It really, really is. It's kind of like, when you have 2 kids in class, one of them gets in trouble, one of them doesn't, and you think, well, why did I get in trouble? And you can't say, oh, the other guy was doing exactly the same thing as me, because, like, well, he should have got into trouble as well. Maybe that's not the best reference, but you know what I mean? Like, it just, why did Sebs have to spin? Why did he have to spin when Lewis didn't? And he should be at the same level as Lewis Hamilton, and I know we shouldn't compare them, but, that is definitely true. Obviously, the second thing going into Ferrari, again, just for some stupid reason, they should be on par with Mercedes. They have a bit of heritage in Mercedes. Obviously, they've won more than Mercedes. Obviously, they've won 6 in a row. in terms of Constructors' World Championships, and Mercedes have only won 4 in a row, obviously with Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg. So obviously they're the better constructor in almost every single light. Obviously the 6th in a row, by the way, obviously was 1999, 2004, obviously not recently. But they should be the better constructor, and they are. But again, they just managed not to get the best against Mercedes. Mercedes have a better strategy. They have obviously better pace in the car. They know how to manage the tyres. For example, like what we saw in Bahrain, obviously in China, obviously with the double stacking of the cars. Valtteri Bottas, he didn't even slow down. Obviously, again, as John said in the review, he didn't even slow down. It was Lewis in out about 2.5 seconds, something like that, and then Valtteri Bottas, pit limit, no slowing down, no speeding up, and then he slotted in straight away. It was really, really amazing to see. Could Ferrari do that? Probably not. I don't think Ferrari could even try that as well. I don't think Ferrari should even try that as well. Yeah.
But like just what you were saying there, Lyle, the fact that Mercedes don't make. All right. Don't get me wrong. That you will see teams make a strategy call wrong. Like for example, what race was it when Bottas? I think it was James came on the radio at the Bottas and said, "Sorry, mate, that was my fault." I think it was James. He said, "Sorry, mate, that was my."
Russia 20. Yeah, I think that was Russia 2018. But again, though, it just seems to be like Ferrari more.
Yeah,
Mercedes don't make strategy wrong.
Like teams will at some point, like Mercedes will make another strategy. They will make a strategy call, and it will be wrong one day. But it seems to be more Ferrari. Well, especially at the level that they're at. They're getting the most. They're getting the most funding. They've got the most sponsors. They're one of the biggest teams in Formula One. So why is Ferrari still getting it wrong, and Mercedes is getting it right? And that's because I believe that there's a better system at Mercedes than there is a Ferrari. Because Mercedes, they're young, hungry, and they're not they haven't got anything to protect it. They're not trying to protect the reputation. With Ferrari, I think they're still kind of old school with their system, even though they have changed a few personnels. Binotto's now team principal, and they've changed a couple of positions, mainly in the back, and they have done that a couple of times in the past, let's say 5 or 6 years, and they're still nowhere near forward. All right, fine. When the regulation changed in 2017. They were a lot closer to the Mercedes, because 2016 was an absolute disaster, but they're still not knocking on the door, if you like. They seem to be doing well at one stage, and then next thing in 2 races they've literally just dropped everything on the floor, and you're going oh really again? It's right. Well, it's when someone's bringing you something very precious and they drop it by mistake. It's all right, go back and get another one, and they're okay, careful, and then they drop it again, and you're what do I have to do to stop you dropping this?
And Ferrari shouldn't be doing that. Like I've just said, obviously they're one of the best constructors, if not the best constructor.
Want to see
definitely on paper.
Definitely. We should see, well, in terms of history, definitely. We want to see a closer fight in the championship, and this is why I think we are talking about this, because we want to see Mercedes and Ferrari, even Red Bull, knocking at the door. And I want to bring Red Bull in here just quickly in a bit. Yes, we want to see those two fighting hammer and tongue, because we want another big rivalry to talk about, like Prost and Senna, McLaren and Ferrari. Those kind of things. We want to see a Mercedes and Ferrari. So we can talk about this kind of amazing decade that this amazing era that we've got to our kids and grandkids as well, because we've got a 5-time world champion and a 4-time world champion. On the grid. And that's absolutely incredible to say, but then we'll say, right, okay, Sebastian Vettel's he's won 4 world championships, but he didn't win one since 2013. He didn't retire until 2020, let's say. So he's went 7-8.
And he's won it with the same team,
or won it with Red Bull.
I do in the past. Obviously, you have seen there has been drivers obviously win the world championships with one team, but when you think about Matt Schumacher, he won 2 with Benetton, then 5 with Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton won 1 with McLaren, then 4 with Mercedes. I just think that if Sebastian went to Ferrari and won a world championship, I think then he would be judged more, because just quickly, John, obviously when he was at Red Bull, obviously a lot of people gave him stick. A lot of people got sick of him winning. I know you did as well. Obviously, especially it was late 2012, early 2013. He got sick of him winning. And Martin Brundle, famously said, Sebastian Vettel can't race. He can either win the race or he just retires. He can't race. He can't be midfield and putting up a fight. Yeah. And and then obviously again 2014 rolls about, obviously he chucks his toys out of the pram, and he leaves. Obviously, to me that's his worst season. Obviously some people say 2016, but I'm going to say that's his worst season in Formula 1. Not just because your teammates are winning, obviously Daniel Ricciardo at that point, he was consistent. I think he finished 3rd or 4th in the World Championship that year. Obviously he was getting podiums, doing a Kimi Räikkönen style, but he did kind of shook his trophies out of the problem, then went to Ferrari, a team that, okay, let's be fair, when he was racing at Red Bull, because those two were the big guys and McLaren were the catch rubbers, to go to your other team, to go to a rival team, was like a little bit frowned upon. And to be honest, at that point, obviously, it went Mercedes, then I guess you could say Red Bull, then Ferrari, or at least Ferrari were catching up in 2014, but they were still kind of, well, last year, they were the two main rivals, and obviously at that point, obviously, Sebastian was then going to he was going to the rivals. So I don't think the move was great, but I think when he did the move, we were all thinking, or at least I was thinking, that if he wins the World Championship with Ferrari, obviously then makes it 5, obviously 4 with Red Bull and 1 with Ferrari, even just 1 at Ferrari, we would then see him in a whole different light. It makes a big difference. Again, I know with Lewis Hamilton, you don't remember that all the time, that he's won 1 with McLaren, but with Seb, you just think, he's had them glory days, they all happened really, really fast. Because Adrian Newey was there, you had the car in one regulation change, obviously between 2009 and 2016, I think it was, 2014, sorry. So at that point, it was the 2.3 V8s. He won the championship there quite fast, and then after that, did nothing. So I just think that it would have changed him just a little bit, Jordan, to say, I've won a world championship in a different era, in a different, in a different car, in a different brand, with a different teammate, different personnel, and a different engine. He's just done it all with Red Bull, and it's kind of like he's done a big breath in, and he's spat out 4 championships. When Lewis Hamilton's took his time, he's rode the mountain a bit, like Schumacher has, like Ayrton Senna had, obviously winning his championships. And yeah, I just think it would have just made a bit of a difference to Seb if he'd done more with Ferrari, because when you think about that, you think Ferrari, he hasn't done much, and then you think Red Bull is like, especially the people who can't really remember him at Red Bull, like for example, if you've just been a Formula 1 fan for the last few years, you might be thinking to yourself, I can't believe he was at Red Bull winning all them races compared to what he's like now, when he's in a Ferrari and he's actually quite struggling, and not all of the problems are for the Scuderia. A lot of the problems are actually caused on by him. And even Charles Leclerc, your teammate, who's only been in Ferrari for 3 races, is actually doing better than you. Obviously, likewise, 1 pole position for Charles, none for Seb.
Like Charles Leclerc has already got pole position before Sebastian Vettel has this season. So yet again, he's proven that, it's like what Brundle said, like Vettel either wins a race, but he either wins a race or he crashes out or whatever, because he can't have a good battle. And if you look back at his results in previous years, that he's never really had a close battle. 2010 was quite close, but he never led the championship till the very last race when he won the whole championship overall in 2010. And then after that, Red Bull just had the better car. Even in 2012, he didn't really go toe to toe with some drivers. Yeah, he had his big moments, but not like not like race out. So really, I think that Vettel isn't as good as what people think he is, or even his stats suggest. Because don't get me wrong, I think some races he's done really, really well, where he really has proved himself. But there are some races where you think that, for example, in 2018, he was just all over the place. And why? Was it because he was battling? Was he battling? Toe to toe with Lewis Hamilton? Was he not? Was he just feeling the pressure? Was he under pressure from Ferrari as well? So there's all sorts of questions to be asked about Vettel's driving ability. Even when we had Chaz on, he was saying that I wouldn't put Vettel in my top 10, and I personally agree. When I did the top 10 of drivers, I didn't put in Vettel at all, because I believe that one half of his career, yes, he did well, got a bit lucky, and to be fair, I thought there was no one really to challenge him at Red Bull, because he was just the golden boy. He was looked after a lot. And then once Ricciardo came into play, all right, fine, the car wasn't good. You could say on one hand, the car wasn't good, the engine wasn't well, it was breaking down, it wasn't as powerful. But on the other hand, you could say Ricciardo won 3 races, Vettel didn't. Yeah. Why? So again, the pressure you could say the pressure got to Vettel there. His driving wasn't as good, it wasn't as consistent. He then jumped to Ferrari, seen the opportunity, not only because of Reitman was there, because obviously yes, it's Ferrari, you wouldn't turn it down. You know what I mean? If Ferrari approached you, of course you would take it. If the price is right, of course. But I
was saying though, John, it is just a little bit of rivalry. It was a little strange, I think, to go to Ferrari at that point. Like, Vettel's always been at Red Bull, and I think I really expected, I remember back then, obviously, if you watched our video last week, obviously when we were talking about how you got into Formula 1, I was saying I was a bit of a Vettel fan. Obviously, I'm more of a Red Bull fan, but I was a Vettel fan. Yeah. And to be honest, that's when I kind of left, when I didn't like Seb. Obviously, I like Ferrari, Of course I do. Obviously I love Ferrari. Everyone loves Ferrari. Again, like I said in one of the other videos.
Yeah.
But when Sebastian went to Ferrari, I lost a lot of respect for him. To be honest, almost all the respect I had for him. And again, that's why I've just said, I would say 2014 was Sebastian's worst year, just because you went to your rival's team, you've kind of took your choice out of prom. It really looks like you have. There was no real implication why he should go to Ferrari. They'd already done an engine regulation. For example, if this was 2013 and then you decided in 2014 he was going to go to Ferrari, even if he was winning the World Championship, already won it at that point, if you decided you were going to go to Ferrari, then that would have been fine. But it was the circumstances that he did it in. It was like almost, it was very rude. I know rude's a weird name, a word, but it actually was a little bit rude towards Red Bull to think, we have given you everything you could possibly want. To be honest, no offense to Mark Webber, but we've put you ahead of Mark Webber. For example, like Multi-21 and that, there's been incidences where, yes, they've like Mark Webber, they want him to win, but they've put Sebastian Vettel first. They actually, when I was watching the Red Bull documentary the other day, they were actually giving him quite a lot of upgrades. They were giving him quite a lot of things first. The Chinese Grand Prix, obviously Red Bull's first win. Sebastian got pole. Sebastian won the race. Obviously, Sebastian got their first win.
Red Bull
in Formula One
built the team around Sebastian Vettel, like what they're doing with Verstappen. They're doing it the same sort of way. You could say,
which is bad. I mean, we obviously don't want to see that. And then again, in an episode, long gone, obviously we talked about that. Obviously, I'm a Verstappen fan, but I don't really want to see that. I want to see them give Gasly a bit of a chance. And to be honest, we saw that a little bit in the Chinese Grand Prix when obviously when Pierre Gasly obviously got the fastest lap as well, obviously behind Verstappen.
I mean,
in the first two races, obviously we didn't.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I want them to give I want them to give more of a chance, and obviously, but back in those days, obviously they were putting him ahead of Webber a lot. And just quickly round this off, obviously, and then have a bad year with that, where the second driver, the second Australian, he wins the races. Sebastian kind of, he makes a fit. He makes a big. He gets quite annoyed with Red Bull and says, "Right, I'm leaving." As John said, obviously it's good to go to Ferrari, but he has left on bad terms. And again, if I was in Red Bull, I'd be very annoyed, John. I mean, wouldn't you? After all you've given Sebastian, or would you just think, he's on for a different mission? Because I mean, no one left on bad terms. For example, Fernando Alonso left Ferrari in 2014, obviously to go to McLaren. He was excited to go to McLaren, but again, I wouldn't say he left on bad terms. No. He wasn't winning. That's not a reason to leave. That's not a reason to stay either. Yeah. But he didn't leave Ferrari on bad terms. He was very much beloved by the Ferrari fans. I remember when I went to Italy last year, there was still a lot of Fernando Alonso fans there, either wearing McLaren stuff or wearing Ferrari stuff. And again, obviously, when me and John went, we saw a lot of people wearing Felipe Massa stuff as well, obviously non-related, but they obviously hang on to their drivers. Yeah. So we loved by Ferrari. He went on to McLaren, not on bad terms. And the only real bad terms move, I would say, in the last few years, of course, is Sebastian Vettel. I just didn't really get that.
I think that the relationship between Red Bull and Sebastian Vettel, I think it's still quite good now. Like, he's still friends with Christian Horner. He'll be still friends with probably Dan Ricciardo, and obviously a couple of the staff members that he used to work with in Red Bull, if they are still there, of course. I think that obviously he didn't leave on bad terms. I just think that what I said at the time, what Lal just said there, that the toys were fully out the pram, and he was seeking other options. And he would have known where Alonso would have been going, so he would have known that there would have been a seat available. And I think that the Ferrari and Sebastian Vettel combo would work, and it should work, but at the moment it's not. For whatever reason, I think there is maybe lack of communication, or maybe Vettel's feeling the pressure. Obviously, there is still time to turn this around. Yes, all right. There is a 31-point deficit, to get around that. But anything could happen in the season. Mercedes could hit a reliability issue, which is unlikely. Don't get me wrong, but not impossible. So there is still time for Ferrari to turn it around with Sebastian Vettel as well, and for Vettel to kind of prove critics wrong. But for me, I can't see him win the championship this season. But to answer the overall question of the topic, will he retire at the end of this season? I personally think no. I think he'll have another year. But the reason why I say this is I've got a question. Now, this is the question I was talking to Lyle about. Now, this is the question.
Oh, yes.
Now, this is the question that I've seen no one discuss, and I've got obviously the reasons why, because it's not a big topic to talk about. But it's an option to maybe put in the back of your mind and think about it quite closely. Because if you think about it, what's going on at Red Bull at the moment is that Pierre Gasly is under a lot of pressure. He's not delivering at Red Bull, he's not putting in some good performances, and his head is pretty much wanted by, Helmut Marko, if you like. Now, the other driver that's been tipped to replace Pierre Gasly is Alexander Albon. But my response to that is, why would you put a young Red Bull junior guy who wasn't ready in the first place in that seat to then replace him with another young Red Bull driver from the programme who isn't ready for that seat. Because for me, Albon won't do any better than what Pierre Gasly's doing. That's not me being critical of Pierre Gasly and Alexander Albon, for instance. I just think that Albon wouldn't be ready like Pierre Gasly isn't, because Red Bull did say that they would prefer of Gasly to have another year at Toro Rosso. So my question to you is, Lyle, will Sebastian Vettel go back to Red Bull if they do decide to drop Pierre Gasly?
That is a very... I mean, it's obviously... in terms of drivers returning, obviously the big one to remember is Fernando Alonso, obviously going back to McLaren. He didn't win, obviously, but
No.
to kind of round off his glory days, at McLaren, at the team, that he had been to before, obviously he hadn't done very well. He was very good. He was going there to kind of, mend fences, obviously, which had been, knocked down, obviously, through the Spygate, kind of things like that. I think Sebastian going back to Red Bull, it would make sense. And again, not comparing to Fernando, but it would make sense. And again, he'd be going back there to say, right, I've won before. I've had a few years out to kind of, I don't know, do something else, race in a different colour. But I'm back now, to show you that I've won me 4 World Championships, and I'm back to support the team even more. But I don't think that'll ever happen. If it does, it's going to be really strange, because as I said, John, before, he went from Red Bull to Ferrari, they're rivals. Obviously, now that everything's shifted, where Ferrari are kind of probably the third best team now on the grid, even the Red Bull. To be honest, actually, I know it sounds really strange, but like,
well, if Ferrari keep things up the way they're going, I reckon Red Bull could be knocking on the door for second place come the end of the season. I was just about to say like Mercedes are first, and I couldn't actually even say that a team's second. I was going to say that a team like a joined third. Red Bull and Ferrari are joined third. Yeah. Nobody's in second place, and then Mercedes are first because no one's going to actually catch Mercedes from everybody else at the moment.
But yeah, it is. I mean, I want to say it'd be nice to see. Actually, quickly, I've got to say, like, in terms of drivers, moving to different teams, I don't think the Formula One obviously is a very tight, compact kind of sport. The people that enter Formula One are staying in Formula One for a lot longer. A bit like football, actually. People are staying in Formula One football for almost 20 years, depending on the race. For example, Tom Brady in NFL's been in this is 20th year in NFL. And we've seen people do that. Matt Schumacher, spending 21 years in Formula One in and out. Yep. So I mean, there is a lot of drivers who are going to stay in Formula One and jump from different teams, but nobody's going to go from like rival to rival to rival to rival to rival, things like that. For example, like I've been hearing obviously Verstappen to Mercedes and Verstappen to Ferrari. Yeah. To be honest, Verstappen and Red Bull will stay for a very long time, and also the age of Verstappen. Like, I was again just quickly on a minute. I was thinking this the other day. The age of Max Verstappen, he'll be in Formula One for about 20 years. So he's 21 now. If he's in Formula 1 for another 20 years, and he's already been in Formula 1 for, how long has he been? Since 2015. So he could, if he'd been in for 25 years, he'll be 41 when he comes out of Formula 1. And 41 is like still pretty, young.
Keep it right.
I mean,
call for that accolade.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's footballers, there's rugby players, that are older than that. I was even watching like a NAS. So they did a thing where Fernando Alonso and this NASCAR driver like swap cars, and this NASCAR driver I think he was about 42 years old. He entered NASCAR quite late. Formula One's probably the only sport where you enter at a very, very young age. Anyway, what I was saying is obviously he's got a long time to choose. With Sebastian Vettel going to Red Bull, I mean, well, if he did, it would be his last team in Formula One. It'd be where he'd round after the clock on. And if that was the case, John, just quickly, just heading about you. So if Red Bull, okay, so obviously they've seen since 2015, Sebastian Vettel, he's won a few races. He's done okay. He's challenged Lewis Hamilton a slightly little bit for a few rounds, and then it's dropped off from him. He hasn't been there. Sometimes he's even been like third best in the World Championship. He hasn't won a World Championship. He's been a bit of a laughing stock, to be honest, because obviously we're taunting him like this. In China, he was actually answering a lot of questions to do with him and Charles Leclerc. Why is Charles Leclerc better than him? Why is Ferrari not as good as Mercedes? And one of the questions was, why is Ferrari treating you so badly? And that sounds a bit of like a break-up question, but it's like, they actually are, they're not giving Sebastian his tools. So, in that instance, why would then Red Bull say, okay, for 2020, we've got Max Verstappen. Max is possibly, he will win a race. I'm not saying how many, probably not many this year, but he will do well, and obviously he will be consistent. We've got him on the grid. We can either stay with Gasly, who will be, we can continue to, grow him like as a good driver, or we can get someone in our junior program. And again, as I said, John, he, as he said, they might not be ready, but we have this program where we obviously do, tailor them to what we want in the team. Why would then we sign a very old Sebastian Vettel? I think he's going to be about 35-ish, as I guess, next year. Why would we sign him when he hasn't won a race? His last race he won was Brazil 2013. See, in his 7 in a row. No, it wasn't. Sorry, scrap that. That was wrong as hell. That was the last win he won with Red Bull. But he hasn't won much with Ferrari. So yeah, sorry, scrap that. Was a terrible thing to say. So he hasn't won in ages. Why would they sign him for that? I mean, would John, if you were Christian Horner, would you sign Sebastian back? After having bad years with Ferrari, winning no championships.
Well, to answer my own question, I personally believe that this wouldn't be the case, but I don't see why we shouldn't really be thinking about it at the same time, because the reason why I'm suggesting this is because, as I said before, Gasly isn't performing to where Red Bull want him to be. Verstappen is obviously is quick, and you expect Gasly maybe not to be as quick as Verstappen, but quite close to the fact that they're both scoring consistent points, because they'll be able to see the situation, what's going on at Ferrari, and if they keep up with their antics, then Red Bull, like I said, should be knocking on the door for P2. But if both cars aren't scoring the points, if one is and one isn't, then Red Bull are just going to stay in third place. They're going to be far too behind second place, but they're going to be too far in front of fourth place. Red Bull don't want to be a third place team anymore. They want to be up there fighting, as like I said, with Ferrari and Mercedes. And if Gasly, let's say, come Abu Dhabi this year, and Gasly is still, not pulling the performances, then I would still think it would be harsh to sack Gasly. But there is no options really in the junior program. You could sign Danny Kvyat again. Personally, I think that ship sailed. Albon, too young. A bit like Pierre Gasly, because if they were to sack Gasly and bring in Albon, that would be ridiculous if you ask me. Albon's a good driver, but no, not quite Red Bull level just yet. The other driver, what's he called, Dan Ticktum, he hasn't got a super license yet. He's nowhere near ready for Formula One. There's no options. Hartley, I wouldn't bring back Hartley to Toro Rosso if you like, or even to Red Bull for that instance. There's other drivers that they've let go in the past. One driver I keep mentioning is Alex Lynn. Who's a former Red Bull program driver who hasn't went back to the Red Bull program, and now, obviously he can't now. He's in Formula E, so that obviously, as I said, that ship sailed. So Vettel has the experience. He has that. There might be people there that he still knew. He can get the team around him there probably a bit easier than he can with a Ferrari. But again, I think it is unlikely, but I think it's a topic that you should really keep in the back of your mind, because I'm surprised no one's actually mentioned this. And I think the reason why, because yes, it could be absolutely ridiculous and just be you're probably thinking, Jordan, that's just absolutely unbelievably stupid. Why do you even think of that? But it's not. It's not real. It's realistic if you think about it. And it is almost like an easy option just to put Vettel in there for now, and obviously Honda can only get better, can't they? And for 2021, I made the prediction 2 years ago that I think Aston Martin will come in with the engines for Red Bull. So I'm thinking that if the Aston Martin deal is good, obviously it hasn't happened yet, but let's say it does, and if it's good, then why can't Vettel? Well, actually get Vettel in to develop the car up until 2021, then leave, and then get the next generation in. And obviously Verstappen's future, where does he go? Will he go to Ferrari? Will he go to Mercedes? I don't know. That's for another video. But no.
I've just said that, John. I've just said I don't like people talking about that, because you've got these these big fighters in Formula One. They're going to stay with their teams and they're going to fight. Valtteri Bottas is probably the only one who you could have a sniff at moving to another big team, but I don't think anyone's ever going to do that. Someone even said the other day Lewis Hamilton going to Ferrari, and I was like, "You're kidding me? Come on."
I personally can't say. I think he'll stay at Mercedes. To be honest with you, but
they've given him five. They've given him 5 World Championships, John. He couldn't leave.
Yeah.
But we've just literally talked about Sebastian Vettel getting 4 and then leaving. Exactly. So
really, I think to be fair, I think Vettel won't retire in 2020. At the end of this season, I personally don't believe he will. However, when his contract runs out with Ferrari, will he sign a new deal? No, but will he go to another team in Formula One? No, I don't think he will, to be honest. So my overall verdict is I don't think he retired this season, but I think once his contract runs out with Ferrari, but that's if that's if next year's car is any good, then who knows? He might sign another deal, because he has said in the press lately that the fire is still there, that the fire is still burning inside of him. He hasn't really thought about retirement yet, but in the other quotation that I made during the video, that his contract is only a piece of paper. So that to me tells me that he's not, obviously he isn't thinking about retirement, but if he was to say, right, I'm retiring tomorrow, then who cares if I've got a contract for next year? You know, that means nothing. It just means that I'm guaranteed a seat. If I want to stay, I'm guaranteed a seat for next year. That's all that means to Sebastian Vettel. But obviously, let us know your opinion in the comment section below. A lot was discussed in this video. I mean, to be fair, we could actually make another video on everything that we talked about in today's topic. So obviously, your opinions on Sebastian Vettel, leave them in the comment section below. Will he go to Red Bull? A bit ambitious, but as I said, don't really, you know, it is something worth thinking about. Well, in my opinion. Anyways, but obviously, if you are new around here, then please like and subscribe as well. And thank you very much for watching as well. We have enjoyed your company as always. And until next time, guys, we shall see you later.
See you later, guys.